The day my ex-mother-in-law publicly celebrated my divorce, she thought she had won forever. She stood in front of hundreds of guests and humiliated me with a single sentence. But seconds later, someone walked through those wedding doors, carrying a truth that would destroy everything her family had spent years protecting. My name is Olivia Carter, and for 6 years, I believed that love could survive almost anything. I was wrong. People always say you don't just marry a person, you marry their family too. I laughed the first time someone told me that because I thought kindness could fix every misunderstanding. Looking back now, I realize I ignored every warning sign. The first time I met my future mother-in-law, Patricia Lawson, she smiled warmly, hugged me, and told everyone how happy she was that her son, Ethan, had finally found a nice girl. At least that's what she said while everyone was watching. The moment we were alone, her smile disappeared. She looked me up and down before asking one simple question. So, what exactly do you bring into my son's life? I thought she meant my career. I work as a financial analyst. She shook her head. No, I mean what makes you worthy of him. I laughed awkwardly, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. That should have been enough for me to leave. Instead, I convinced myself she simply needed time. For years I tried everything. I remembered birthdays, bought thoughtful gifts, helped organize family dinners, visited whenever Ethan asked. No matter what I did, Patricia always found a reason to criticize me. If dinner tasted good, it would have been better if Ethan had married someone who knew traditional recipes. If I received a promotion, career women always neglect their husbands. If Ethan forgot something, you've changed him. Nothing was ever enough. The hardest part wasn't Patricia. It was Ethan. Every single time I cried after another family gathering, he held my hand and whispered the same sentence. She's just like that. Don't take it personally. 6 years. 6 years of pretending things would improve. Then everything collapsed. It happened during what should have been the happiest season of our marriage. We had finally saved enough money to buy our dream house. Or at least, I thought we had. One evening, Ethan came home unusually quiet. He sat across from me at the kitchen table without touching his dinner. I think we need some space. I laughed. What do you mean? He wouldn't look at me. I don't think we're compatible anymore. Just like that, no counseling, no discussion, no warning. Within 3 weeks, my husband had filed for divorce. His family acted as though I had been the problem all along. Patricia called relatives. She told neighbors. She even posted inspirational quotes online about letting toxic people leave your life. Every post felt like it was aimed directly at me. I blocked her. I deleted social media. I focused on rebuilding my life. Divorce wasn't just emotionally painful. It was financially devastating. I had to move into a small apartment, sell furniture, start over at 34. Meanwhile, Ethan seemed happier than ever. 3 months after our divorce became final, I heard through mutual friends that he was engaged again. To a woman named Vanessa. Someone Patricia absolutely adored. Of course she did. Vanessa came from an influential family. Her parents owned several luxury hotels. Patricia couldn't stop bragging about her future daughter-in-law. I wished them happiness, or at least I tried. Then one afternoon, something unexpected arrived in my mailbox. A wedding invitation, addressed to me. At first, I assumed it had been mailed by mistake, until I opened it. Inside was a handwritten note, no signature. It didn't need one. Only Patricia would write something like that. I threw the invitation into the trash. That should have been the end. 3 days later, Patricia called me from an unknown number. You received the invitation? I did. So you'll be there. No. Her voice turned icy. Oh, Olivia, you really should come. Why? Because everyone deserves closure. Before I could answer, she hung up. For days, I couldn't stop thinking about that conversation. Why did she care whether I attended? Why humiliate me again? Then my best friend, Rachel, said something that changed everything. What if she wants an audience? Those words stayed with me. Patricia had always loved public performances. Every insult, every fake smile, every dramatic speech, she wanted witnesses. I almost didn't go. The morning of the wedding, I stood outside the venue for nearly 20 minutes before finally walking inside. I promised myself one thing. No matter what happened, I wouldn't let them see me cry. The ceremony took place in one of the city's most luxurious hotels. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Fresh white roses lined the aisle. Soft piano music echoed through the ballroom. I quietly slipped into a seat near the back. A few guests recognized me immediately. Whispers spread across the room. I ignored them. Then Patricia spotted me. Her smile widened. She actually looked excited. That was my first clue. Something was terribly wrong. She walked directly toward me. Every conversation nearby stopped. People watched us. Patricia raised her champagne glass. Then, loud enough for half the ballroom to hear, she laughed. I knew you'd come. I stood. I'm only here because I wanted peace. She smiled. Oh, sweetheart. She leaned closer. Then said the words, I'll never forget, leaving you was the best decision my son ever made. Several guests laughed uncomfortably. Others looked away. I felt every pair of eyes in the room on me. Patricia wasn't finished. She turned toward the crowd. I hope everyone can now see the difference between a woman who holds a man back and one who helps him succeed. Vanessa smiled politely beside Ethan. Ethan looked uncomfortable, but he said nothing, absolutely nothing. My heart broke all over again. I reached for my purse. I was ready to leave. Then the massive ballroom doors suddenly swung open. Every head turned. The music stopped. Someone unexpected had arrived, and the expression on Patricia's face changed from triumph to absolute terror. The entire ballroom fell silent. Every guest turned toward the entrance at the same time. Even the musicians stopped playing. The woman standing in the doorway wasn't dressed like a wedding guest. She wore a navy blue business suit, carried a leather folder, and walked with the calm confidence of someone who knew exactly why she was there. Patricia's champagne glass trembled in her hand. For the first time since I had met her, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. No, she whispered under her breath. Ethan looked confused. Mom, do you know her? Patricia didn't answer. The woman continued walking until she reached the center of the ballroom. She looked around the room before speaking in a clear, professional voice. I'm looking for Mrs. Patricia Lawson. Nobody moved. Finally, Patricia forced a nervous smile. I'm Patricia. The woman nodded. Thank you. She opened the folder. My name is Margaret Ellis. I represent Harrison & Cole Financial Investigations. The room became even quieter. Patricia laughed awkwardly. I think you've made a mistake. I'm afraid I haven't. Margaret removed several documents. We attempted to contact you privately multiple times over the past 3 weeks. Patricia quickly interrupted. This is my son's wedding. I understand. Then leave. I'm unable to do that. Patricia's smile disappeared. What exactly do you want? Margaret looked around the room. I was informed this would be the easiest place to locate every individual involved. A murmur spread through the guests. Ethan stepped forward. Involved in what? Margaret slowly turned toward him. Mr. Lawson, yes. I believe you're unaware of several financial transactions that occurred shortly before your divorce. I felt my stomach tighten. Divorce. Financial transactions. What did any of this have to do with me? Patricia suddenly grabbed Margaret's arm. We're done here. Margaret calmly pulled away. I would advise against touching me again. Several hotel security guards instinctively moved closer. Patricia took a step back. Margaret looked directly at Ethan. Would you like to know why your joint savings account suddenly lost nearly $200,000 8 months ago? Ethan's face turned pale. What? I couldn't breathe. Our savings account. The money we'd spent years building. The money, Ethan told me, had disappeared because of failed investments. He had cried while telling me. He'd held my hands. He'd sworn he had made a terrible mistake. Because of that loss, we postponed buying our dream home. Our marriage slowly fell apart after that. Was it a lie? Ethan stared at his mother. Mom. Patricia remained silent. Margaret continued. Those funds were never lost. The ballroom exploded into whispers. What are you talking about? Ethan demanded. Margaret opened another file. According to banking records, the money was transferred through 3 different accounts before being deposited into a luxury property purchase. Ethan blinked. I don't understand. Margaret looked directly at Patricia. The property owner was Mrs. Patricia Lawson. The room froze. Even Vanessa looked shocked. Patricia suddenly laughed. This is ridiculous. It isn't. I've never stolen from my son. Margaret calmly placed copies of bank transfers onto a nearby table. The signatures suggest otherwise. Ethan rushed forward. He grabbed the papers. His hands shook. I never approved these. Margaret nodded. You didn't. Silence. The authorization came from someone using power of attorney documentation. Ethan frowned. I never signed power of attorney. Margaret slowly looked toward Patricia. Patricia's breathing became heavier. Vanessa stared at her future mother-in-law. Patricia! Patricia snapped. Stop looking at me like that. The room jumped. Margaret remained perfectly calm. Our investigation also discovered the documents were signed 4 days after Mr. Lawson underwent emergency surgery. Ethan's eyes widened. I was unconscious. Correct. I suddenly remembered that week. Ethan had suffered appendicitis. He'd been hospitalized. Patricia insisted on handling all paperwork while he recovered. At the time, none of us questioned it. Margaret continued. The signatures appear to have been forged. Gasps echoed across the ballroom. Vanessa slowly stepped away from Patricia. You forged Ethan's signature. Patricia shook her head wildly. No. Margaret calmly turned another page. We also obtained surveillance footage from the bank. Patricia closed her eyes, almost as if she already knew what was coming. There is clear video showing Mrs. Lawson completing the transfers herself. Every guest looked at Patricia. Nobody said a word. Ethan whispered, Mom. She refused to meet his eyes. I did it for you. Those 5 words hit the room like an explosion. What? I did it for you. Patricia's voice cracked. You were wasting your future. Ethan stared at her. Wasting it? With her. She pointed directly at me. That woman was holding you back. My heart sank. Even now, even after everything, she blamed me. Patricia continued shouting. I knew if the money disappeared, the marriage would fall apart. The room gasped again. Ethan looked physically sick. You? His voice barely worked. You destroyed my marriage? Patricia immediately answered. It was already failing. No, it would have failed eventually. You stole from us. I protected you. You lied. I saved your future. You destroyed it. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Ethan slowly turned toward me. His eyes filled with tears. Olivia. I couldn't answer. Everything I'd believed for nearly a year suddenly collapsed. The arguments, the stress, the depression, the financial pressure. It hadn't happened naturally. Someone had manufactured our suffering. Someone had carefully destroyed our marriage from the inside. And that someone was standing only a few feet away. Vanessa quietly removed her engagement ring. Patricia noticed immediately. "What are you doing?" Vanessa placed the ring into Ethan's hand. "I'm sorry." Ethan looked confused. "This isn't your fault." She smiled sadly. "No." She looked toward Patricia. "But this family isn't one I can become part of." Without another word, she walked toward the exit. Her parents silently followed. Within seconds, nearly half the wedding guests began leaving with them. Patricia watched helplessly. No, the ballroom emptied faster than anyone expected. Friends, business partners, relatives, everyone who had celebrated her only minutes earlier, quietly disappeared. The wedding reception had become a public scandal. Telephones appeared everywhere. People whispered. Someone was recording. Someone else was already posting online. Patricia realized it too late. Her perfect image was collapsing in real time. She turned desperately toward Ethan. "Please say something." He looked at her with eyes I'd never seen before. Cold, heartbroken, exhausted. "I trusted you." Patricia reached for his hand. He stepped backward. "You were my mother." She began crying. "I only wanted you to have a better life." "I already had one." She froze. "I lost it because of you." Those words seemed to break something inside her. She collapsed into a nearby chair. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Margaret closed her folder. "There is one final matter." Everyone looked back at her. She turned, not toward Patricia, toward me, Mrs. Carter. I frowned. "Yes, I believe there is something that legally belongs to you." My heartbeat quickened. "What do you mean?" Margaret slowly removed one final sealed envelope. The investigation uncovered information that neither your former husband nor his mother knew existed. Ethan looked just as confused as I was. Margaret placed the envelope in my hands. "Your late grandfather left very specific instructions." I stared at her. "My grandfather." She nodded. "And according to those instructions," she paused, "your divorce may never have been legally capable of taking away what he secretly left in your name." I looked down at the unopened envelope. Inside was a truth that had been hidden for over 15 years. A truth powerful enough to change every life in that ballroom forever. I stared at the sealed envelope in my hands. For a moment, the ballroom disappeared. The whispers, the cameras, the shattered wedding. None of it mattered. My fingers trembled as I looked at my grandfather's name, written across the front in elegant handwriting. He had died 15 years earlier. He had been the only person in my family who ever made me feel truly seen. After his funeral, everyone told me he hadn't left much behind. I believed them. I had never questioned it. Margaret smiled gently. "Your grandfather was a very careful man." I looked up. "I don't understand." "He anticipated that certain members of your extended family might try to interfere with his wishes." "What wishes?" She nodded toward the envelope. "Open it." The room had become completely silent again. Even Patricia stopped crying. I carefully broke the seal. Inside was a handwritten letter. The first line immediately brought tears to my eyes. My vision blurred. That sounded exactly like him. I continued reading. I swallowed hard. Every word felt personal. There was another document beneath the letter. Margaret waited patiently. "What is it?" Ethan asked quietly. I unfolded the paper. At the top, in bold letters, were the words I frowned. "A trust." Margaret nodded. "Your grandfather created it several years before he passed away." I kept reading. The trust included investment accounts, commercial property, dividend-paying stocks, land, and several businesses. I looked up in disbelief. "This can't be right." It is. How much is all this worth? Margaret answered calmly. Today, approximately $32 million. A collective gasp echoed through the ballroom. I couldn't move. 32 million. My grandfather had been comfortable, but never extravagantly wealthy. Margaret explained. He quietly invested for decades. Very few people knew the full extent of his assets. I looked back at the papers. Then another sentence caught my attention. Below it was another paragraph. I blinked. What does that mean? Margaret smiled softly. It means your grandfather specifically protected your inheritance from anyone who might attempt to control your life through marriage. I slowly looked toward Patricia. Her face had turned completely white. Margaret continued. He also added another clause. What clause? If evidence ever proved that a marriage ended because of fraud, coercion, or financial manipulation by a third party. She paused. The trust would be released immediately. The room erupted into shocked whispers. Patricia suddenly stood. No. Margaret nodded. Yes, you can't. We already have. She handed me another folder. Everything has been transferred into accounts solely under your control. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. For almost a year I had worried about paying rent. I'd sold furniture, worked overtime, skipped vacations, wondered whether my life had been permanently destroyed. All while a future my grandfather had carefully protected was waiting for the truth to come out. I began crying, not because of the money, because someone had believed in me, long before I believed in myself. Someone had planned for the day I'd need hope. I quietly folded my grandfather's letter and held it against my heart. Across the room, Ethan slowly approached. He stopped several feet away. I don't deserve to ask this. His voice cracked. But can we talk? I nodded. We stepped away from the crowd. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, he whispered, I'm sorry. I looked at him. I failed you. His shoulders shook. When the money disappeared, I blamed myself. I know. I worked longer hours. I know. I became angry, withdrawn. I know. He covered his face. And instead of fighting for us, I listened to everyone except the person I promised to protect. I took a slow breath. I loved you, Ethan. I loved you too. The silence between us was heartbreaking. Do you think, he began, there's any chance? I gently shook my head before he could finish. Tears filled his eyes. I understand. I don't hate you. He nodded. But trust doesn't always survive betrayal. He lowered his head. I know. I reached into my purse and removed my wedding ring. I had carried it for months without knowing why. I placed it in his hand. This belongs to the past. He closed his fingers around it. I'm truly sorry. I believe you. Those were the last words we ever spoke as husband and wife. When I turned back toward the ballroom, Patricia was waiting. She looked nothing like the confident woman who had mocked me an hour earlier. Her makeup had run. Her hands shook. Olivia. I didn't answer. She stepped closer. I was wrong. Still silence. I thought I was protecting my son. You weren't. I know. You wanted control. She closed her eyes. I did. For years you treated me like I wasn't good enough. I know. You stole from us. I know.